People thought he's taking a big risk, but he painted a vision of an America. And that's why today he's regarded as the greatest president of the history of America. The second one is what we call as the affiliative methodology of communication. That you affiliate yourself with the people or make the people affiliate with you on the basis of some characteristic which is not available to others who are competing with you for leadership. For instance, to say I'm from backward classes, or I'm a scheduled caste, or I'm a person who belongs to the upper caste, this kind of affiliation which is birth-based and it's not got anything to do with any other thing except that you feel that you are part of that the leader's family. So that's the second method which has been used by many. And this you have a large number of examples in India where people have used caste, region, religion, language, so many other factors. You can go to Tamil Nadu where the Tamil language has been used as a way of affiliating one with the other and making it a distinct language when in fact it has a vast number of words. I think probably 40% of its words of Tamil are in common with Sanskrit. The third thing is the command methodology of communication, and that is by dictatorship. And that also can mobilize the people. Hitler was an example. Was a tremendous example of how he was able to get the entire German people to accept his commands and tolerate some of the worst things that was done in human history. And so this command, accepting the command and making the command as something acceptable, that is also maybe a, degenerate form of leadership, but still leadership nevertheless. The fourth is the consensual democratic approach, where you argue with people, you present the points of view, you appear before parliament, explain your position. This kind of thing, we have had many examples, but in our own history, I would say P.V. Narasimha Rao was a classic example. The Congress party, he was a Prime Minister of a Congress party which was committed to socialism and state ownership of the means of property. And he, however, made a big switch and brought in economic reforms where he abolished quotas, licenses and all in one blow. And he was always available to discuss this and talk this. Manmohan Singh might have been his finance minister and the media might have given him the credit. But the political conversion of that agenda was done by Narasimha Rao by his arguments, his availability to answer questions in parliament, and so on. And that kind of, I think there were others very similar. I wouldn't say that Jawaharlal Nehru was in that sense democratic because it was more, nobody even wanted to question him. That was the situation. But Narasimha Rao was a person who suddenly came out of nowhere and became the Prime Minister, and he did it very skillfully, so I singled him out. Then there is the educative way, that this is the way to do it, and making the people accept it. I would say Mahatma Gandhi is an example of that. And that is something which he made people accept non-violence, he made people voluntarily accept lathis of the British police, and so on. And it was maybe towards the last 3-4 years he was a disappointed man. But the fact is that the freedom movement got traction because he persuaded vast amount of the masses to accept this as a method of revolt. And this revolt then received the attention of the world. And non-violence could achieve victory was something new in our history. The last is the last method of communication for leadership is what is called as a pace setter. And that's perhaps the most difficult of all methods. But you have to say something which the people don't accept. And it stirs up a debate. And it leads to a great deal of ferment in thought and so on. And ultimately you're proved right. And that is the time when people accept you as a leader. And then it is a very firm attachment that comes. I would say the example I best see for that of pace setter method of communication is of Churchill. And Churchill, see, kept on warning the kind of, Britain and the Western world, Hitler is dangerous, Hitler is dangerous. Whereas the then dispensation headed by Neville Chamberlain was saying, no, we can do business with Churchill. Even the United States, till the Japanese joined with Hitler and attacked the United States, they were of the same view that we can do business with Hitler. And, but it was Churchill who ultimately was proved right. He was abused. If you look at that period of 1931 to 39, 32 to 39, before he took over as Prime Minister after Neville Chamberlain miserably failed in his peace efforts, you will say that Churchill was one of the most abused politicians in England. And, but he stuck it out and kept on warning about Hitler, and it turned out to be true. And then England accepted him as the war leader during the war. So these are the types of leadership. So if somebody wants to be a leader, he has to choose either one of these or multiple of these. He can marry these things. He can be both a person presenting a vision and yet doing what Narasimha Rao did, persuade people to accept that vision. So this is the first thing I would say is an essential ingredient of leadership. Now, the additional fact that these messages come with a certain intellectual capacity, which has to be developed. And that means that you're able to put across your ideas in a way which the people understand easily, and then they begin to debate and think about it and finally accept. And for that you need a multiple level of intelligence. That is, we think of intelligence today in schools and colleges as something which is only purely cognitive. You're good in mathematics, you're good in chemistry, you're good in biology, that kind of thing. And then you say, well, say a very intelligent person because he's on top of the class, that sort of thing. But intelligence now has been recognized, what was recognized by the rishis and munis of our country for centuries ago, as a multidimensional facet of a person. So the first is, for vision you need cognitive intelligence. You have to visualize the future. You have to know the technology of the current situation, how it might develop, what other new things are likely to come. And that kind of intelligence is cognitive intelligence. Then this, when it comes to affiliation, creating an affiliation between you and the masses, that it would be called as emotional intelligence. And then if you want to be a pace setter, that is called moral intelligence. Similarly, if you want to be consensual in your approach, not take a extreme position, but find what the middle path is and work through that, that's called social intelligence. And then if you are thinking of education, to persuade people to do things which you know logically people will not like it, but you work on their higher emotions, and that is called spiritual intelligence. And finally, if you want to command the people, you have to have what is called as innovational intelligence. So this is now become part of the curriculum of the education study in the courses in education in advanced university, and certainly at Harvard I've seen that these are all special topics, and some of the people who have contributed to it, written books on it, These are in, you can find it in different format in our own writings of, say, Chanakya or Kautilya or Panini or Patanjali and so on. But in modern terms, you can see it in books now, titled as cognitive intelligence, emotional intelligence, and so on. So this development of the intelligence is an extraordinarily important way, how to put across your ideas and in what form, whether it's pure logic, which is cognitive intelligence, or in terms of affiliation, as I said, through emotional intelligence, etc. So what do we need in India today for leadership that will have an impact internationally? That will be my next question that I'll pose to myself. Today, if I look at Indian history since 1947, I have not found a single leader who, because of his economic performance during his tenure, has managed to win an election again. Morarji Desai, in my opinion, during the period 1977-79, produced one of the best economic recoveries that was possible. He stabilized prices and brought them down to such levels that people who went through that period remember, but the subsequent generations don't remember. But in 1979, the Janata Party, under his leadership, severely lost the election because of the emotional reason that the party split when the party had vowed to the public that we will not break up, or will not collapse, we'll stay united. In fact, we all took oath in the Rajghat, pledging that, but people soon broke that oath in no time, and the party split. And so, despite the fact that Morarji Desai produced this wonderful record, he could not get elected. In fact, we were very badly defeated. We got 1/10 of the seats that we got in 1977 in the year 1980. The second example I have from India is Narasimha Rao. He produced a miracle in economic growth when it was running at 3.5% per average for 40 years from 1950 to 1990. India averaged in GDP growth of 3.5% per year. But Narasimha Rao transformed that, and year by year acceleration. In the final year, he was, when before the election, the country was moving at 8% per year. And it was widely, internationally praised. And in the end, when the elections came, he lost the election. The Congress party's strength became half what it was in 1991. What's the explanation for that? Before I come to that, I'll give you another example. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government produced a lot of changes, a lot of reforms, and did many things which people like exploding the hydrogen bomb. But the fact is that despite his painting the picture that he has created a new India, and India shining was the slogan at that time, again in 2004 election, the BJP lost and its strength became half what it was before. So how do you explain that? This also on the state level I've seen reformers who produce major economic changes. Chandrababu Naidu did in Andhra, S.M. Krishna did in Karnataka. They lost the elections. So what is it about this? My view is that the economic progress, which many of our intellectuals loosely talk in debates, as the American saying is, it's economy, you stupid. So that, as if the main thing that counts in politics should be the economic development, has not produced electoral victories. And what is the reason? There are invariably major emotional reasons which get affected. In the case of the Narasimha Rao's case, in case, of course, of Morarji Desai, it was the fact that the party split, and they felt it was betrayal, and that superseded the excellent economic performance of the Janata period. In the case of Narasimha Rao, it was essentially the shock of the workers that this party, which was sworn by socialism and so on, has now completely done the exact opposite and gone for market economy, and that they were not emotionally prepared for it. And the workers did not work for him in the elections. And same thing with Atal Bihari Vajpayee, because none of the promises made, like building a Ram temple or abolishing Article 370 or bringing about uniform civil code, none of those were even touched during his period. And the workers decided what is in it for them. And therefore, emotionally, they used to work free for the party. And the cadre of the RSS was the main backbone by which this could be done. And therefore, that backbone didn't exist, and therefore you lost the election, even though all the media, everybody was very friendly to Mr. Vajpayee and his government, but it didn't lead to victory. So you got to keep this in mind, that the economy, prospering economy is at best you can say a necessary condition. If the economy is doing very badly, then it may be a factor in your not doing well in the elections. But the economy is doing well, that's not sufficient. It has to have certain other emotive aspects, and particularly in the case of the BJP, I would say issues connected with what I would call in enlightened terms as Hindu Renaissance are very important for its victory. Fighting corruption would be very important. So, put together, I would say that if you want to emerge in the global market, the country has to understand that the people in this country have a lot of emotions, and these emotions have to be addressed. And at the world level, people look at you not so much in terms of your achievement. You can have a Japan, it has achieved a lot in economic growth, but it's not a world power. For world power, it must stand for something specific. This is what I want to say. Thank you very much. You do your physics, you do your mathematics, or you do your management science, and take a job and get a good salary and retire and then build a house and watch television. That kind of lifestyle. The spirit of adventure, for example, the risk-taking. Indians are not risk-takers at all. They are risk-averters. And they would any day prefer a job which has certainty, which has got security, to a alternative which is risky, where you may end up as a billionaire, but you might also end up on the street. So this risk-taking is not an essential part of our education, which we teach our people. We, in fact, even passing exams, it's you don't contradict the teacher. You don't, think you're independently. You take whatever he says and then just recycle it in the exam. That's the kind of system we have. Now, this has to change, no question about it. But how do you change a system which has been in place for 70 years of our own independence, and also maybe 100 years before that? So that process, we find a lot of resistance. And we find resistance also from ideological groups which want us to see the world in their own way. The communists, for example, are an example. Communism has failed all the world over. And they used to, with pride, say that there is no inflation in Soviet Union, there is no unemployment in Soviet Union, there is no poverty in Soviet Union. And now we know there is no Soviet Union also. So the kind of ideological brainwashing has also been part of the reasons why we can't go into these areas where we need teachers also. We need ability to form a curriculum. So this is going to take time. It's not that the BJP is not thinking about it. There are people working on it, but we find a lot of resistance. Take, for instance, our history. Our history is all bogus. It's written by foreigners for us. And from their perspective, there are even simple things of the chronology. We got it wrong. So today there are books which tell you that you are actually two communities. One is the Aryan and the other is Dravidian. And first the Dravidians ruled, and then the Aryans came through Khyber Pass and beat you and beat the Dravidians to the south. And north is Aryan, south is Dravidian. This is completely contradicted by science, which says that the DNA of Indians from Kanyakumari to Kashmir and from Kutch to say Dibrugarh, the people are the same DNA. And this is published in noted journals of genetics of the world over. Whether it's a scheduled caste or the Brahmin, his DNA is also the same. Whether it's Hindu or Muslim, his DNA is the same. These are established scientific facts now, but it's not part of our thinking today. It's still the same old divisions which is there. So what we need is what we call as a new mindset. And that new mindset is going to take time to bring about. Because I myself know, because I'm very active in this question of writing a new history textbook which actually gives you the factual position based on established data and which is arguable. You can argue and show the other point of view wrong. And that is the existing point of view wrong, and that there's a new formulation which should be there, that India was one country all through the centuries, and it was not something which was put together by the British, or the democracies was something that we imported from England. These are all factually wrong. So the short answer to your question is, yes, what you say is correct. But the problem that we face is how to sequence it, how to do it without having an uproar over it and obstruction to it.
Thank you so much, sir. Any more questions?
So, good morning.
Yes.
Here. So, do you believe that in terms of politics and favorism of any particular party, are we still divided as a society? Just to give you an example, if Mr. Modi goes to a Madison Square, he receives a clapping, he stands, he gets a standing ovation. And there are many people who are saying that, he's on a flight mode, always traveling, whereas those things are giving us dividends. So what do you think? I mean, we don't take pride in ourselves as an Indians. What do you think? Do you have any say on that?
Well, we certainly have unstated, unarticulated inferiority complex. The moment any Western agency says something good about India, we are wallowing all over it. We are so pleased with it. And a criticism also is something that depresses you quickly. We have still not come out of that mold, which is what the British education system was. When it was set up, it was to create what they call as Indian in skin color, but Western in dress and eating habits and mannerisms and so on. One of their parliamentarians has articulated it in 1835, known as what he produced as minutes. Macaulay was the name of the person who formulated our educational policy, and the fundamentals still continue. Because in order to change, you also need teachers, and those teachers have to be trained. And for training them, you need people who can teach them. So it's a process which will take a little time. But it's a renaissance which has to be brought out. We, certainly as Indians, we are not sure of ourselves unless some foreigner says that we are. The software, for example, we were doing it. I remember as Commerce Minister in '91, when the world did not know our capacity to do software. The software we were producing at that stage itself was top class, but they were all financially hamstrung, and they were doing it under very difficult circumstances. It was the Y2K paradox, which ultimately the Americans pumped money all over the world, including to Indians, that brought about this software revolution, because we produced the software which enabled computers to recognize the year 2000, which will be known by the last two digits of 00 as not 1900 but 2000. That was done by the Indians. And then after that, the recognition has come from the West. And now we are taking pride in that. Yes, even yoga was not recognized till Jane Fonda picked it up and put it in a video. Till that time, we didn't believe the yoga was a great thing.
Thank you, sir. We would proceed to the last question.
Good morning, sir. There are two questions that I would like to ask. Firstly, that right now you just said that to win electorally, we need two things in India: economic growth, but it's not very important. The second thing is emotionally. What we are seeing right now is we are not going very well economically. IMF is saying we will go by 7.4, but it's not sure. Secondly, even emotionally, we are not going. Emotionally, what BJP has planned, we are not. The BJP is not doing that. Ram Mandir, I hope, and I'm sure that it will be done by 2018. That will be from your side. But uniform civil code and other things that had to be done, that is not done. And the second question is that right now we were saying about leadership qualities. To be leader, we are quite fortunate. We have Narendra Modi. He has decisive mind. He is strong-willed. But the thing that is lacking, what I feel from my side, like being a leader, you should have the capability to take everybody with you. The thing is, Shiv Sena, which has been a very old ally, it's leaving. It has already announced that we are going to leave. Second, yesterday night, Chandrababu Naidu also announced that if BJP is not going to listen to us, we are going to go alone in 2019. So it is something, if we see politically, 2019 NDA is lacking behind by 25 seats, if approximately. So these two things that we are not doing very economically well, plus emotionally we are not doing Hindus something backing up. Secondly, we are not taking people with us, like NDA is not going together. These two questions, like, thank you.
Well, first of all, on the shorter question of Shiv Sena, it's our ideological twin, and I am sure that they will not leave. In fact, we did not fight the elections to the Maharashtra Assembly together. And after that, I may say I played a major role in bringing them back into the government, despite the fact that they fought elections separately. Yes, they have some grievances which need to be addressed, and they are mostly sentimental ones. And it's not a question of power sharing or how many seats you got, how many ministryships you got, etc. But as far as Chandrababu Naidu's and people like that are concerned, that was a sort of a mutually beneficial pact. And it would not, we have also, therefore, to suffer the baggage that he is carrying. And there are a lot of people in our ranks who say that if we stand alone, we'll do much better. So that's a more complicated question. But I don't think there is the whatever little coalition, because we've got absolute majority in our own right, and it is not because we made alliances with them. We definitely need to take people along, I agree. Modi must not do all this himself. He must have a team, and that team must be committed to that vision. He may have a team, but whether they're committed to his vision or not, I'm not clear. Certainly these promises that have been made, they need to be implemented, because Vajpayee lost the election because he didn't keep any of the promises. But some of the major promises this time I certainly will see they are kept. One of the promises was that Ram Setu will not be will not be cut, and that I've already achieved it through the Supreme Court. And I'm pretty sure that Ram Temple will also, the announcement would come probably by July, August, that the courts will probably say. I can't say what the court will say, but I can say what they'll probably say. Will say that you can build it and hope to build it by Diwali because everything is in prefabricated form and it can be done very quickly. So I think that would be enough for our people to say, okay, next round, in the next term, they will do 370 and Uniform Civil Code and so on. So I don't see any major problem for the BJP that way. But whether you have full satisfaction or not, of course you don't have full satisfaction because nothing moves without you being inside to see how much difficulty there is to get things moving. And we are not, in that sense, a completely homogeneous group. We have people who think that even fighting corruption is only disrupting parliament. So we should not fight corruption. We have to overcome that, and that also I'm doing. I'll probably have a lot of people in jail by the end of this year. So it's not, everything can't be attributed to Modi. That, this has not happened because he's not done it, or he's unable to do it, or he's dishonestly told us that you do it. He has too many dimensions to work in, and all of us to pitch in. But I do not foresee that we should have any difficulty in the elections of 2019 on the grounds that we have betrayed our electorate.
Thank you, sir. I would now request Justice Mehta to felicitate Subramanian Swamy.
We'll have Mr. Anil Singhal felicitate, sir. Thank you so much, sir.